As time passed, the Somdet's health improved, so I took my leave of him to go off and find some seclusion, as was my custom. That year was the 100th anniversary of the founding of Wat Supatwanaram, the first Dhammayut monastery in the northeast. The Somdet told me, "I want you to go help in the celebration. I'm going to give them the relics you've presented to me as a souvenir from Wat Barom Nivasa." Saying this, he went to look at the relics he had placed on the altar over his pillow, and discovered that more than 40 had come on their own into the glass bell. I said I would present them all to him. "This is really strange," he said. "Never in my life as a monk has anything like this ever happened before." He said he would send them all to Wat Supat, and had me choose which ones to send in his name and which ones in mine. When he said this, I decided to go help in the celebration as a token of my appreciation for his kindness. The celebration at Wat Supat turned out to be a major event. The government donated a large sum of money to help and announced that all those in Bangkok who were going in an official capacity would leave the city together on March 18th. The notice announcing this was signed by Field Marshal Fin Chunhawan, Minister of Agriculture, and General Luang Sawat, Minister of Culture. One day, when I was in Lopburi, I learned that there had been a change in plans, so I hurried down to Bangkok. When I arrived, the Somdet called for me. "They've changed the schedule," he told me. "I want you to go with them. I'll give you the relics. They'll be your responsibility." I didn't say anything one way or the other, but after I had returned to my quarters and thought things over, I realized that I couldn't follow the Somdet's orders. I went to see him. "I can't go," I told him. "The notice published with the government seal says that on the 17th, the relics will be set out for public viewing here at Wat Barom Nivasa. Now the plans have fallen through. I've already distributed the notice, and on the 17th, large numbers of people will be coming. If I leave beforehand, I'll be in for a lot of criticism. That's why I can't go." None of the senior monks, it turned out, were going. The problem was caused by Nai Chau. It seems that Field Marshal Fin had mentioned that he'd like to leave a day early and stop off for the night in Nakhon Ratchasima, giving the soldiers, policemen, government officials, and people in general there the chance to pay their respects to the relics. Nai Chau hadn't informed the ecclesiastical authorities, and this is why there had been a mistake in the printed schedule. As a result, I didn't go with the first train, because the Somdet had told me, "Stay here. If anyone comes, take the relics and display them in the main hall." I agreed to do as he said. That night I placed 3 relics, larger than lettuce seeds and the colour of pearls, on a glass tray and took them to display in Urafong Hall. This person and that person wanted to look because they had never seen any relics before. When I opened the cotton wool and they saw the 3 relics, this person poked at them, that person picked them up, and so 2 of them disappeared, leaving only 1. The next day I took the express train to Ubon, along with a group of others, 14 in all. Reaching Ubon, we went to help in the anniversary celebration, which included the laying of the cornerstone for the Mahathera building to be constructed there in Wat Supat. One night there was an incident at a little after 10 p.m. A group of about 50 of us were sitting in meditation in the ordination hall when a light appeared, flashing on and off like a fluorescent bulb. We all opened our eyes and 2 or 3 people found relics in front of them. As it got later, more and more relics appeared. People both inside and outside the ordination hall were puzzled, and one by one began to suspect a fraud. When it got fairly late, we stopped for the night. The next day, rumours spread through town. A man who had never before set foot in a monastery came to tell me that the night before, he had dreamed that loads and loads of falling stars had dropped into Wat Supat. I thought to myself, if there really are sacred objects connected with Buddhism, I want them to show themselves. That evening, Nai Fit of the Provincial Fisheries Bureau brought a friend, a lady teacher, to come and see me. The teacher started asking me a lot of bizarre questions and in the end announced that she was going to leave her husband and come follow me because the Dharma I taught was so amazing. Her husband, Nai Prasong, worked in the Ubon branch of the government savings bank and was a Christian. Thinking that his wife had become mentally unbalanced, he had made a habit of following along wherever she went. People would ask him, "If you're Christian, what are you doing in a Buddhist ordination hall?" The teacher became even more reckless and bold, and came to sit just a metre away from me. I was sitting on a chair, and her husband was sitting about 3 meters off to one side. Altogether, there were about 50 people in the hall. So I made a vow. Today may the power of sacred objects come and help me, because there's a rumor going around concerning the relics of the Buddha that I'm tricking and deceiving the people. With news like this, there's no one I can turn to unless the deva and sacred objects can help me. Otherwise, Buddhism is in for derision and contempt. At the time, Chaukun Aryagunadhara was sitting in front of the major Buddha image all the other monks had left because it was so late. I then had everyone sit in meditation and added, "Whoever doesn't believe, just sit still and watch." After a moment or so, I had the feeling that sacred objects had come and were circling all around. So I ordered everyone to open their eyes and told Nai Prasong, "Open your eyes and look at me. I'm going to stand up." I then stood up and shook out my robes and sitting cloth for him to see, at the same time thinking, may the devas help me so that he won't be able to hold our religion in contempt. Then I said in a loud voice, "Relics of the Buddha have come. People sitting right in front of me will receive them. But when you open your eyes, don't move a muscle. I myself won't move." As soon as I had finished speaking, there was the ping of something small falling on the floor of the hall. A woman got up to pounce on it, but it sprang from her grasp and came near to where I was sitting. Another person came running after it, but I ordered him to stop. Finally, the object came to rest in front of the teacher, so I told her, "It's yours, Nai Prasong, watch carefully." The teacher picked it up. It was a setting from a ring, very finely done, an object that had once been offered in worship to the Buddha's relics. As time passed, the teacher would sit there, sometimes with her eyes closed, sometimes with them open, but she'd say, "Luang Phra, you've taken me up to sit on top of a mountain. All I can see is my own skeleton. But how can that be if I'm still alive? Even though I have a salary of 500 baht a month, I've never known the happiness I feel sitting here right now." The things she'd say got wilder and wilder all the time. In the end, no fewer than 10 people received relics of the Buddha that night. All the people there had their eyes wide open, and the place was well lit. Just before daybreak, Nai Fei came to me, clutching in his fist a set of relics that he then gave to me. Saying he had received them the night before, I turned them all over to Wat Supat. The celebration lasted 5 days and 5 nights. One day they arranged a raffle for donating sets of robes to monks who had come to join in the celebration. There were a lot of people in Ubon who still mistrusted me, but none of them were open about it. One person who was open about it was Mei Thangwan Siasakun. She made a vow. "If this Ajahn is really honest and sincere, may he draw my set of robes in the raffle." When we drew the raffle tickets, it turned out that I actually did draw her set of robes. With the celebration over, I returned to Bangkok, and then went to wander around from place to place. When the time came to stop for the rains, I returned as always to be with the Somdet. That rainy season his illness was much worse. He didn't sit in meditation much at all. Most of the time he'd meditate lying down. After the rains he passed away. During the rains, he was very sick. His asthma flared up, and he couldn't get any sleep. One night, at about 2 a.m., a monk came running for me. All the monks and novices were in an uproar because the Somdet had told them to go for the doctor. But here it was late in the middle of the night. How could they go for the doctor? Chao Kun Sumedi had had the monk go for me instead, so that I could reason with the Somdet, for the Somdet wouldn't listen to anyone else. So I went up to the Somdet and asked him, "What medicine did you take today? How many tablets? How many times?" "I can't breathe," was his answer. I felt his body. He was fiery hot. I learned that he had taken 1 tablet too many. The doctor had told him to take 1 tablet twice daily, but he hadn't felt like going to all that trouble, and so had taken 2 tablets at once. Now he had a bad case of heartburn and could hardly breathe. I told him, "I've seen this sort of thing before. It's not serious. In about 15 minutes it'll pass." A moment later, he closed his eyes and entered Samadhi. Monks and novices were sitting around on all sides. After a while, he said, "I'm fine now. You don't have to go for the doctor." During the cold season, his asthma flared up again. One morning, he sent a novice to fetch me. At the time, I had visitors, so the novice simply spoke to me and left the Somdet, then asked him, "Is Ajahn Lee here in the temple?" Yes, in that case, he doesn't have to come. My mind is at rest. If he leaves the temple, though, go after him and have him come back. At about 5 in the evening, he sent the novice to look in on me. The novice didn't say anything to me because I was sitting in meditation. He returned to the somdet and said, Ajahn Lee is in. A little later, at about 6, he came for me again. This time I hurried up to see the somdet. He made a number of directives concerning the temple, and then lay still. I went downstairs for a moment. Suddenly, there was a commotion upstairs, so I hurried up again. Along with the somdet in the room were the monk who was nursing him, and Chao Kun Dhammapitok. Looking at the somdet's condition, I knew he wouldn't last. Monks and novices were running around in confusion, and the doctors were all upset. One of them had stuck his finger down the somdet's windpipe to remove some phlegm, but to no avail. When I could see that there was no hope, I ordered the doctor to stop. Don't touch him. And a moment later, the somdet breathed his last. When we had finished washing the body, we met for consultation, and the following day arranged for the ceremonial bathing of the corpse. The temple committee then began the merit-making ceremonies. They asked me to be in charge of the kitchen, which I agreed to do. Kun Naitun Kosalyawit was my assistant. The first 7 days, we didn't have to draw on the temple funds at all because so many people came and made voluntary contributions. Altogether, the merit-making lasted 50 days. During this period, we drew on temple funds from time to time. After the 50 days were over, I decided I'd have to go off for a rest. On the 10th of April, I left for Lampang to help with the ceremonial marking of the boundaries of the ordination hall at Wat Samran Nivasa, which lasted for several days. When the ceremonies were over, I went to stay in Phra cave. My old stomach problems began to flare up. I had a bad case of diarrhea and fierce pains in my stomach. Word reached the city of Lampang that I was in bad shape. One day I went to rest in the inner cave. I saw a rock stuck in the mouth of the cave, 20 meters off the ground. The thought occurred to me that I'd like to build a chedi there. In the cave I called to the lay people staying with me to help push the rock out of the cave, which they were able to do. We then dug a hole and cut away at the rock floor until about 1 p.m, when a car arrived. The people in the car said that they had come to take me to the hospital, but I had already recovered from my illness. Without realizing it, I told them that we were going to build a chedi. Before leaving the cave, I stood at its mouth and looked out to the southwest, to a range of deep green, forested mountains. Seeing the fresh green of the trees, I thought of the Bodhi tree and that it would be good to plant 3 Bodhi trees there at the mouth of the cave. I mentioned this to the monks and novices, and then returned to Lampang. From there I went on to Uttaradit, because a layperson had come up looking for me, asking me to return to Uttaradit, because an old woman, a student of mine, had started babbling incoherently. For several days I went to stay in Uttaradit a fair while, helping the woman, and then went on to VII, where I stayed at Wat Radbarana, near the home of a woman who was an adopted child of mine. The story of this adopted child is worth telling, although it dates back to the year I spent the rains with the hill tribes people at Ban Pa Den Sayen Kandan, the cliff village in the land of really primitive hardship, in Chiang Mai. The woman's name was VII, her husband's Mahanam. One day I'd gone to teach meditation at Wat Aranyik, located in a forest 6 kilometers outside of VII. A lot of government officials, shopkeepers, and people in general had come to practice samadhi, including the chief of police, Luang Samrit, Luang Chin, Kun Kasam, Captain Fayo, all of them people really earnest about practicing meditation. We were sitting, discussing the Dhamma, when someone came and said to me, "Please come and visit a sick person in my home." I agreed to go. The chief of police then drove us there in his car. When we arrived, they told me that a Dutanga monk had come down from the north, made some lustral water for them, and then told them, "I'm afraid I can't cure you, but a monk who can will be coming soon." He had then left and continued on his wanderings. As soon as Mahanam had heard that I was in the area, he had come looking for me. Talking with him, I learned that his wife, Mei Fin, had been ill for 3 years now, ever since she had lain by the fire after childbirth. They had spent more than 8,000 baht on injections, but nothing had cured her. All she could do for the last 3 years was simply lie there. She couldn't get up at all. For the past year, she hadn't been able to speak. She couldn't even move. Hearing this, I told Mahanam that I'd go have a look. As soon as I set foot in the door, I saw the woman raise her hands feebly in a Y. I didn't give a thought to her condition, but simply sat in samadhi. My Fin said 2 or 3 words, moved herself a little, raised her hands in another Y, sat up, and then kneeled down by her pillow. Get well, I told her. Be done with your old karma. That day I ordered her to pick up a match and light me a cigarette, and she was able to do it. I told the people in the house not to feed her the following day, simply to place some rice and curry down next to her she'd be able to feed herself. The next day, her husband came to the temple to present food to me. When he returned home, he found that she had finished her breakfast, washed the dishes, and was able to get up and crawl around. I went to see her that afternoon, but found that the neighbours had all brought jugs and pots to get some of that fantastic lustral water. Seeing this, I felt ill at ease, and so hurried back to Bangkok. We kept in touch by letter, though. A month afterwards, May Fien was able to get up and walk. The second year, she was able to go to the nearby temple and donate food to the monks. The third year, she came down to stay at Wat Borom Nivasa, walking all the way from Hua Lamphong train station to Wat Borom, and walking every day from where she was staying to hear sermons at the meditation hall, perfectly normal in every way. Altogether, it was an amazing affair. From Phitsanuloka. I went on to Phetchabun to visit a student who had set up a monastery at Lom Khao district with the help of district official Pin. After staying in seclusion for a fair while, I went with some others into the forest. We crossed mountains and streams for several days and then stopped to rest on the slopes of a hill. From there, we followed the lower slopes of the hills until we reached a tall mountain covered with a bright open forest. Off in the distance, I could see a towering peak called Haw Mountain. My companions had gone on ahead. I was following behind. Thinking of Haw Mountain, my mind was at peace. I thought of a treasure that was beyond my powers. I'd like to be able to levitate to the peak of Haw Mountain. I stood still there for a moment, my bowl hanging on a strap from my shoulder, and dreamed that a cloud came down out of the sky, while a faint voice said to me, "Don't think about it. When the time comes, it will happen on its own." The vision then disappeared. During this trip, I was really thirsty. On all sides of the trail were nothing but packs of foxes. Due to the fact that we were so far from human habitation, we kept on going and stopped off at Ban Wang Nam Sai, Clearwater Village. We then cut across the forests and streams, and when we came out of the forest, we arrived at the Pa Bing Range, a place where Ajahn Mun had once stayed. This was an area of caves and small hills. We spent quite a few days there. Late one night, when it was quiet and still, I was sitting in meditation until I felt like I was going to doze off, and suddenly there was an incident. I saw a mountain peak covered with trees to the west of Pu Krading. A gigantic man, wearing a dark yellow cloth tied around his waist, was standing on the mountain and holding up the sky with his hands. I was standing under his arm. He said, "In the future, life will be hard for humanity. They will die from poisonous water. This water will be of 2 kinds. 1. Fog and dew that will hurt the crops wherever it forms. People who eat the crops may become sick. 2. Rain. If you come across strange rainwater, i.e. A. Reddish rainwater, or B. Yellowish rainwater, with a peculiar taste, don't drink it. If you do, you'll come down with diarrhea and a rash. If you drink a great deal, you may die." This was the first point he had to say. The second point. He gestured off to the northeast. I saw a giant spring of water shooting out of the ground. Wherever its waters flowed, people became ill. If they used this water to irrigate fruit trees, the trees would become diseased. The lifespan of people would become shorter and shorter. The third point, something strange began to happen on the mountaintop. In whatever direction he spread out his hand, the trees would be leveled in rows. "What does this mean?" I asked. "Adults with no sense of morality will suffer in the future." Can any of this be prevented? The diseases caused by water, if caught in time, aren't serious. Otherwise, they'll cause death within 3, 5, or 9 days. Will I be affected? No, because you appreciate the virtues of your elders. I'll give you the formula for the cure. If you hear that any of these diseases have appeared, go quickly to help." I asked him, "Can't you tell them the cure yourself?" "I could," he said, "but it wouldn't do any good. You have to make the medicine yourself. Take tamarind fruits, remove the shells, and soak them in a salt solution. Then pour off the water and give it to the diseased people, or have them drink the brine from pickled garlic. The disease will go away, but you have to make the medicine yourself." He went on to say that his name was Sanchiko Devaputta. This happened in 1956. After we left Phra Range and had gone to stay in a nearby township, the people there came with a strange story to tell. The night before, a cloud of mist had passed through a tobacco field, and the leaves of the tobacco plants had all fallen off. Another time, I heard that in Thoen district, Lampang province, villagers had drunk rainwater the colour of tea, and more than 10 of them had died. Both of these stories seemed uncanny because they were in line with my dream. After that, we went on to Wangsafung district, and then climbed the Great Phra Plateau, after spending a night at the foot of the plateau. Altogether, there were 5 of us, 2 boys and 3 monks. We climbed the plateau, reaching the edge of the top at about 7 p.m. From there, the walk to our campsite was a little more than 3 miles. The air on the plateau was chilly, and the whole area was covered with pines. As soon as we reached the top, it rained, so we all looked for places to stay. I spotted a pine log that had fallen into a patch of tall grass, and so I climbed up to lie on the log. The others had run off to find shelter elsewhere. That night, there was both wind and rain, which meant that I didn't get any sleep all night long. At dawn, we came out looking for one another, and then searched for a place to stay. We found a small cave with a fine rock ledge and a tiny well filled with rainwater from the night before. There we stayed in solitude. The plateau was a great broad plain, 7 kilometers square. Once you were up there, you felt as if you were on level ground. The whole plateau was covered with pines and tall grasses, but with no other kinds of trees, although there were many kinds of trees on the lower slopes. This, I would gather, was because the top of the plateau was solid rock. You could tell from the fallen pines. Their roots had crept along the crevices in the rock. This was a really restful, quiet place to stay. Every day at 5 p.m, when it didn't rain, we'd get together to sit in meditation on the rock ledge. I'd think to myself, I don't want to return to the world of human beings. I'd like to live on in the woods and the wilds like this. If possible, I'd like to attain supernatural powers, or, if I don't attain them, may I die within 7 days, entering Nibbana on the 7th. Otherwise, may the Devas take me off to live in solitude, far from the congregating spots of humanity for at least 3 years. Every time I'd start thinking like this, though, the rain would start to fall, and we'd have to go back into the cave. One of the other monks with us, named Phra Sri, had never gone out into the wilds before. All along the way, he had talked like a salesman, which had me annoyed. In other words, he liked to talk about worldly matters. Whenever we reached a village that looked poor, he'd bring out his Lopburi has loads of fish story for the villagers to hear. He'd tell them that pickled fish from Lopburi was sold as far away as Chaiyaphum province. This annoyed me. We had come out for solitude, not to sell pickled fish. I'd have to keep after him about this, but he had more years in the monkhood than I. When we'd go to stay on a mountaintop, he'd like to build a fire to warm himself. When I was asleep, he wouldn't dare do it when I was awake. While warming himself, he'd get the 2 boys, Man and Manu, to join him and talk. After we had stayed for a few days, the group started getting less and less quiet. The first day had been fine. No one dared talk because they were afraid of the tigers and elephants that were plentiful on the plateau. After the 5th day, our rice ran out, so we got ready to go down the plateau. When we reached level ground, we stopped to rest for a while. A person who worked for some Westerners saw us and came to spread out a mat for me to sit on. I didn't accept the offer, so he invited Phra Sri to sit on the mat, which he did. A moment later we heard thunder, even though the sky was sunny, and in that very instant a branch from a nearby tree came crashing down less than a foot from Phra Sri's head. Phra Sri, his face pale, jumped up from where he had been sitting. That, I told him, is what happens to people who don't have any self-restraint. From that point on, Phra Sri became a very quiet person. After that, we went on and stopped to spend the night at a school near Phra Nok Khao, Owl Cliff. My followers were all tired out. Late that night, when it was quiet, I could hear the sounds of people sneaking out into the forest. So the next morning, I asked one of the monks what they had been up to the night before, and was told, "We took your palm sugar. We've been carrying it for days now, but haven't had any. So last night we boiled it in water and drank it all up." When we had finished our meal that morning, we left to cross through a large forest. Before setting out, I made up my mind. I'm going to ride my own car all the way to Chumphe district, which was 80 kilometers away. I won't accept any offers to ride in a car or truck. I'm going to look for solitude in the forest. A few minutes later, after we had gone about a kilometer along the road, a car went whizzing past and then stopped about 200 meters ahead of us. A woman came running in our direction and said, "Please accept a ride in our car. We've just bought it." I looked at the faces of the others. They all wanted to accept the ride, but I didn't agree to it. The woman pleaded with us for a long time, but I still didn't accept the offer. We walked along, our umbrella tents and bowls slung over our shoulders, through the heat and the sun. After about 4 kilometers, I spotted a hill with a spirit shrine ahead, and so stopped to rest and explore the caves there. A woman came along with a child in her arms and 3 dead lizards slung over her shoulder, which she placed near the spot where I was resting. I thought of asking her for one of the lizards, but didn't dare say anything. After I had rested for a moment, a parcel post truck from Loei came past, with Naiman and Phra sitting in it. The driver stopped, jumped down from the truck and came running toward me. "I've seen you walking along the road for several days now," he said. "Please accept a ride from me." He pleaded with me for several minutes, saying, "I won't ask for any fare, not even from the boys." One of my followers had gone on ahead. One was trailing behind. "Thank you," I told him, "but we can't accept your offer." So my followers, who were in the truck, had to get out. We walked into the Lan Wilds, an area of virgin forest. At about 5 in the afternoon, Phra had an attack of dysentery, so I gave him permission to ride on ahead and wait for us at Chumphe. Naiman couldn't walk any further. He was barely able to drag himself along. So I gave him permission to take the ride to Chumphe and wait for us there too, so that left 3 of us. Myself, Frajum, and Naimanu, a boy from Uttaradit. We reached our resting place, a village called Ban Krathum, after dark at about 8 p.m. We had trouble finding a place to stay and ended up camping in the woods near a stretch of water. Up the next morning, we went for alms in the village and then, after our meal, travelled on. After we had walked for about a kilometre, the sun became so fierce that we stopped for a while to rest in the shade. At around 5 in the evening, the sky became dark and ominous. It looked like rain. Naimanu wasn't willing to spend the night in the forest and so asked permission to ride on ahead to Konkain. But when he went to wave down a ride, no one would stop for him. After a short while, a storm blew up, with heavy winds and rain. The boy went for shelter to a house nearby. Later that night, the roof of the house blew off in the wind. Meanwhile, Frajum and I had walked on, looking for shelter along the roadside. I spotted a shack, 1 meter by 2.5 meters wide, and thatched with grass. The rain was pouring down, and the wind was blowing branches off the trees, so I called to Frajum, and we went to stay in the shack. Frajum opened his umbrella tent and rested under one half of the roof. I stood resting under the other half. A gust of wind came, tore off the half of the roof under which Frajum was resting, and carried it away into the middle of the fields. A moment later, a tree came crashing down. Frajum came running to my half of the shack. Seeing that we couldn't stay there any longer, we went running for a clump of bushes that gave us enough space to crouch, shivering and cold, for about an hour until the rain stopped and the wind died down. Our robes and things were soaking wet. We went and found another shack, lit a fire, and spent the night there. During the night, it rained again. The next day, the boy wasn't able to walk on any further, so we had him ride on ahead to wait for us at Chumphe, leaving just the 2 of us, Frajum and myself, to walk on by ourselves. At about 5 that evening, we reached Chumphe. Phra dysentery still hadn't cleared up. His face was pale and sickly, so we stayed on at Chumphe until he had recovered somewhat. I received news that the date for the Somdet's cremation had been set and that it was to take place fairly soon, so I took the express train from Konkain to Bangkok. This was in June, 1956.